Lamarck's most famous idea was this idea behind the inheritance of acquired characteristics. His example was that of a giraffe, stretching its neck to reach high leaves, and as it stretched its neck, it would pass that stretched neck on to its offspring. But that seems kind of reasonable when you first think about it, until you think about what other kinds of acquired characteristics there can be, and then you start to realize this is not going to be a viable explanation for the changes we see in species. So if we look at, let's say, hair color, my favorite color is the color pink. So if I dyed my hair pink, Lamarck's idea of the inheritance of acquired characteristics states that if I dyed my hair pink, I would have babies with pink hair. Pink hair being a trait I acquired during my lifetime and I could pass on to my offspring, or a muscle builder, a weightlifter who really gets a whole bunch of muscles is going to have babies that have big muscles and just like walk around immediately. And that doesn't really make sense. We know that's not how it works. But again, it's all about building on ideas. Humans build on the ideas that previously came before. We make them better. We come with more understanding until we come to the right answer. So, how do we come to the right answer? Sometimes it's messy and there's big fights. Science isn't always smooth sailing. We often have big disagreements. And one of the biggest disagreements was over how the earth was shaped, and as an extension of that, how old the earth is. On one side of this debate, you had George Cuvier. He is a skeptic that the earth is very old. He thinks the earth is very young. He is much more in line with Ussher for dating the earth. And he thinks that the earth has to be formed by a by major catastrophes. And because of that, he subscribes to a school of thought, or a kind of idea of how the earth was formed, called catastrophism. He thinks that the earth was formed by floods, volcanic eruptions, and that these processes are the predominantly shaping force of the earth. On the other side of the debate, you have Charles Lyell, who is a uniformitarianist, which is an extension of a school of thought originally developed by James Hutton called gradualism. Gradualism and uniformitarianism are this idea that the earth developed gradually over a long period of time, and that the earth basically looks the same as it always does. That the predominantly shaping forces behind the way the earth looks are slow processes of erosion by wind and water and tectonic plate movements and really long processes to shape the planet. And while they did admit that catastrophes do happen, they're not the predominant force. And in this battle for the age of the earth, it is these two gentlemen that really win out, and the evidence really supports their conclusions. Catastrophes are rare events that may take millions of years between occurrences, and until then, the predominantly shaping forces are these slow, gradual forces. The reason this debate is really important, for biologists particularly, is that if the Earth is young and shaped by catastrophes, there probably isn't enough time for organisms to change and become what we see today. If the Earth is old and has formed over gradual stages, then there's plenty of time for organisms to change and adapt to their environment. We started out talking about these individuals by looking at this picture. We talked about how human ideas change over time, and we progress and get a better understanding of the world around us. Our technology gets better, our understanding gets better, but we're not the only things that change. Organisms on our planet adapt. They go through a process we call evolution. And we've been talking about in class and in this lecture all the different people who contributed to one final individual's ideas. And that's Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin is the man who is famous for developing the idea of evolution by natural selection. We're going to go more in depth into his ideas in the next video, but I want you to get a sense of just how important and interconnected these ideas are to each other. Darwin's ideas don't pop up out of nowhere. It's not like he went on this ship, saw some stuff, and it was not connected to any other body of science. Science and our understanding as humans was progressing to this point. We were already thinking about these ideas, and he just eloquently explained them all first. That's where I'm going to end this video. I will pick up with talking about Darwin and going into his ideas in the next.